January 20th, 1961, Senator John Fitzgerald Kennedy from Massachusetts is sworn in as the 35th President of the United States. During his inauguration, President Kennedy said the most famous quote no one could ever forget.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
When Kennedy said that, the people see a new hope of a new decade.
Well, I was actually pretty young when John F. Kennedy was the president, but I remember him as being a very popular figure. I remember seeing him on TV all the time. I know my parents definitely supported him and his ideas, but as far as really discussing his political views, I was kind of a little too young for that, in all honesty.
Well, of course, the main thing I remember about President Kennedy was his assassination. Camelot, he seemed to have what Americans thought of as the perfect family. The first Catholic president. And he was voted in. He was the first president that was voted in after I was born. So it's the first election that I actually remember.
On November 22nd, 1963, on the first day of President Kennedy's re-election campaign, Kennedy, along with First Lady Jackie Kennedy and Texas Governor Connally, are driving down the streets of Dallas, Texas, with roaring crowds cheering for them. Then, at Dealey Plaza, shots rang out, and both President Kennedy and Governor Connally are seriously wounded by the shooting.
In Dallas, Texas, 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade in downtown Dallas. The first reports say that President Kennedy has been seriously wounded by this shooting.
Both President Kennedy and Governor Connally are rushed to Parkland Hospital, and soon later, trying their best to revive him, they pronounce President Kennedy dead.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago.
I remember the assassination clearly. It's one of those things that's kind of etched into my mind. One of those events that you'll never forget. I was 10 years old, and I was in number 3 school here in West New York. I was in the 4th grade, and I was in Mrs. Logan's class. When a student came down and told us to just put everything together and come back up, there was an emergency. And I remember when I went back to the room, I saw Mrs. Logan had tears in her eyes, and she was an older woman. The principal then got on the loudspeaker. His name was Mr. Cavati, and all he announced was that we are going home, that the president has been shot, and he asked us all to pray for him.
I was right here in the high school, attending a health class on the first floor of this building, and an announcement came over. It was shortly before lunch, and that the president had been shot. And back in the day, we had 2 homerooms. Everyone went home for lunch. So as soon as that announcement was made, we were all ordered back to our homerooms, and we were dismissed for the day. And everybody ran home to see the news on television, and there weren't many answers. We didn't know if the president was alive or dead at that time, and we didn't learn until the evening that the president was indeed dead.
Again, I was a young boy, but I knew that was bad, the president getting shot. So I went home. I actually went to my grandmother's house because both of my parents worked. By the time I got there, my grandmother was crying, and she told me President Kennedy was dead. So it was a sad day. I remember that day clearly, that whole day.
Soon after, a young man named Lee Harvey Oswald is accused of killing police officer J.D. Tippit and was later accused of killing President Kennedy. Oswald completely denied killing President Kennedy or Officer Tippit, saying that he was just only a patsy.
I'm just a patsy. President.
After being killed in front of live television, they say that Lee Harvey Oswald got 3 shots in 6 seconds in the school book depository behind President Kennedy's limo. Many people say that it was truly impossible of how Oswald did it, saying that there was truly a conspiracy.
I believe Lee Harvey Oswald did pull a trigger to kill President Kennedy. He may have been a part of a conspiracy, though. Whether or not there was another shooter in the area, because I know there's evidence that some of the bullets entered his body from different directions. I really don't know, but I really think that we have to look at Lee Harvey Oswald as the assassin.
I think Lee Harvey Oswald killed John Kennedy on his own. I don't believe in a conspiracy theory. That's just my thoughts from what I've read, from what I understand. I know there's a lot of evidence both ways, but I just don't think that something like that could be completely blocked over all these years. I think that with all of our investigative reporting, somehow that truth would have come out. And being the truth never came out, my guess is Lee Harvey Oswald killed the president on his own.
No. I believe there might have been more than Lee Harvey Oswald involved. I do not believe in the extended conspiracy of 2000.
Many people truly believe that Oswald did kill President Kennedy, but more people believe that Oswald didn't kill him and instead believe that multiple people killed President Kennedy from different angles and directions, especially from the grassy knoll. One man named Gordon Arnold witnessed an actual shooter from the grassy knoll.
Okay, so I walked the complete length of the fence, got around on the other side. That's when I started to line up my frame so that I could take the picture of the parade. I had been panning shots through here so that I could get whatever was going to come down the street. And I saw that it was the President of the United States. And as I was panning down this direction, just as I got to about this position, a shot come right past my left ear. And that meant it would have had to come from this direction. And that's when I fell down. And to me, it seemed like a second shot was at least fired over my head. There's a bunch of report going on in this particular area at that time. And what happened was that while I was laying on the ground, it seemed like a gentleman came from this particular direction. And I thought it was a police officer because he had a uniform of a police officer. But he didn't wear a hat. And he had dirty hands. But it didn't really matter much at that time because with him crying like he was and with him shaking when he had the weapon in his hand, I think I'd have gave him almost anything except a camera because that was my mother's. And literally what the man did was kick me and asked me if I was taking a picture. I told him that I was. And when I looked at the weapon, it was about that big around, and I decided I'd let him go ahead and have the film. I gave it to him, and then he went back off in this direction. I went off in this direction. And 3 days later, I was in Alaska. And I didn't come back to the United States for about 18 months.
Facts have proven that Oswald was a poor rifleman in the Marines, and that the rifle that he supposedly used said to be a very bad gun. Even expert marksmen couldn't pull off what Oswald did. Not even Jesse Ventura himself
Oswald
couldn't do it.
Supposedly got off 3 shots in 6.3 seconds. He had to shoot through trees too, and his target was moving. Just for the record, I was an expert marksman in both pistol and rifle. When I was governor of Minnesota, I amazingly still qualified as an expert at 50 years old. Fire in the hole! The Mannlicher is so cheap and hard to work, there's no way Oswald could get off 3 shots that fast. How much? $884. This is impossible.
People believe that the Warren Commission, the men sent by President Johnson a week after the assassination to investigate the murder, were covering up what really happened. They even accused Lyndon Johnson, President Kennedy's vice president who became president after the assassination, Richard Nixon, who first ran against Kennedy in 1960 but lost the election, Gerald Ford, who was a member of the Warren Commission, and our old pal, George H.W. Bush. Could there truly be a conspiracy? Could people with high power be involved? Could the assassination be a well-planned operation? We could never know. This November marks the 50th anniversary of JFK's assassination. Already a half a century, and the people who lived through that day still remembers.
First of all, I can't believe it's 50 years. I've certainly seen myself age over that time period. I'm a teacher now, just like when I was a young kid, and I'll certainly discuss it with my classes, and I can think of all the things that have gone on in our country over the last 50 years, both as a nation. I think of how I've grown, how I've gone through school, gone through college, and how I've been teaching now in Memorial for 37 years. Probably the biggest thing is just how time flies. It's 50 years, wow.
When I think back to things in my life, that day is so vivid. I guess I can compare it to 9/11. But we look back at the 50th anniversary for, something that changed America.
So I look back 50 years ago, and time passes.
You often wonder if there's, with the Kennedy family, so many deaths. Past is past.
This is Michael Rivera, with help from my good pal Adam Santana, reporting from Tiger TV, signing out, and long live the memory of President John F. Kennedy.
So let us not be blind to our differences, but let us also direct attention to our common interests and the means by which those differences can be resolved. And if we cannot end now our differences, at least we can help make the world safe for diversity. For in the final analysis, our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this small planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's futures, and we are all mortal.